Happy Thanksgiving, pilgrims. Actually, it's the week before Thanksgiving, but as we're not in school during that week of Thanksgiving, and I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving in advance. As you all know, I am Tommy Kaludi, your host, and this is, as you also know, UMass Sports Weekly, your number one source for all things UMass sports. We have a great show for you today. A lot of big tournament games came up for the Minutemen and Minutewomen this week, and two sports are just getting into swing. We have a lot to talk about. First, my good friend Liam Byrne, who came over with me on the Mayflower, is going to talk about the men's hockey team, who had two Hockey East games this weekend, taking a win away from Merrimack, but also falling to UVM. After that, Phil Sanzo makes his triumphant return. He's going to talk about the men's soccer team and how their season came to an end in the A10 tournament in quite a devastating fashion. After that, yours truly is going to give you a recap of the women's field hockey team and their run in the NCAA tournament. After playing Monmouth and beating them, they took on number 2 in the country, Maryland. How did they fare? Spoiler alert, not too well, but we'll break down the coverage and we'll talk about what we're looking forward to for next year. To end the show, everybody's favorite UMass sport, basketball, is back. Derek Kellogg and the boys took on Ole Miss and UMass Lowell this weekend. Phil Sanzo is going to come back, and we're putting him on double time because he decided to take a little bit of hiatus without telling anybody. Phil's going to come back. We're going to talk about both of those games and look forward for what the future of the Minutemen is going to be like this season. There is no food on the table. There is no apple pie in the oven, but we have a little bit of we're in a giving spirit, so I'm hoping to give you guys a great show. This is UMass Sports Weekly.
This is UMass Sports Weekly.
I told you we'd give you a great show, so we gave you the opening sequence and Victor Cruz. Huh? What do you think about that for generosity? Now, the Minutemen hockey team, we're going to start off with them, had two games this weekend, one away, one at home. They took on Merrimack and UVM, number 19 UVM, two Hockey East games. As I alluded to in the intro, the Minutemen beat Merrimack 3-1, and they also fell to UVM 2-1. So I'm here with Liam Byrne, who covered both of those games. Liam, like I said, 3-1, 2-1. You get a win and a loss. You get your first win in the Hockey East, and then you fall to a tough UVM opponent. Because we're in a giving mood, we're in an optimistic mood. Tell us some of your positive takeaways from this weekend.
Yeah, totally. It's great to be positive here at UMass Sports Weekly, right? We always love it. So the Minutemen against Merrimack propelled in the first period to get 3 goals, which is great coming right off the opening drop of the puck, just to get a quick 3 goals, which is nice, and it held them out for the rest of the game. And a big help from freshmen. The freshman contribution to this team has been incredible. Shane Bear and Johnny Lazarus are two of the guys who I would like to point out. Nick Rainyard in goal. He totaled for 40 saves that night, which is definitely something that helped the UMass hockey defense. And the power play was effective too, holding off the Merrimack's approach to gaining the upper hand. And as Tommy mentioned, it was their first Hockey East victory, and also Greg Carvel's first Hockey East victory as the Minutemen's new head coach. And it's also, fun fact here, first road victory against Merrimack since 2008, Tommy. 2008.
Fun fact, I was younger than I am now.
Yeah,
in
me too.
2008.
Me too.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out Johnny Lazarus tied for the team lead with 3 goals. Mm-hmm. Shane Bear also riding a bit of a hot streak. He has 4 points in the last 5 games. So, Liam, you mentioned Nick Rainyard really quickly. We've talked all year, and we talked all last year and the beginning of this year about the goalie situation. We have Ryan Wischow and we have Nick Rainyard battling back and forth. Give us a breakdown on what the goalie situation was like in these 2 games this weekend.
Right, yeah. So, with Merrimack, as we know, Rainyard total for 40 saves, and he's had more experience than Wischow, obviously, because he played last year. But Ryan Wischow played very well against Vermont, I'd have to say, with his 23 saves, and he's making his 5th start of the season. So I feel like Carvel has a lot of confidence in his young goaltender here. But I feel like we mentioned earlier in the season, Tommy, that Carvel's got to pick one. He's got to pick one goalie that the defense can get used to and that the whole team can be consistent towards, because both of them are playing very well. And I feel like if he just breaks it down to what they've been doing each and every game in the Hockey East, that he has to come to a decision just to keep it consistent. And that's mainly what this hockey team has to focus on, is their goaltending situation, Tommy.
They've split almost equally this season. I mean, Wishow has played in more games, logged a few more minutes, but save percentage, the numbers are pretty equal. Would like to point out, Liam already mentioned it, Renyard made 40 saves against Merrimack, and Wishow made 23 saves. Neither number too shabby. What it does tell me, though, UMass put up a good fight against a good number 19 UVM team.
Definitely.
Not only did Wishow have the 23 saves, it also tells me that their defense was playing well, which is something that they usually lack.
Yeah. At the UVM game, towards the end, it was very, very intense because of how close the defenses were going at it, and also shot for shot. They were going back and forth, and it was just made for a very, very good game. And definitely it came from the goaltending and defense as well.
So, Liam, we've just started Hockey East play. We've taken on Juggernaut BC, taken on UVM, Merrimack, UConn. We haven't seen the likes of BU, Providence, UMass Lowell. So, it's been early. Who have you liked so far?
I've mentioned his name already, Johnny Lazarus.
The Lazarus Effect.
Lazarus Effect. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
It's a bad
the
movie.
Lazarus Effect has definitely definitely propelled the Minutemen on their offensive side. He has 6 points, 3 goals, and 3 assists, and he just brings a lot of energy to this Minutemen offense. Contributing other teammates like Shane Baer, who's also a freshman. Captain Steven Yacobelis. Everyone's getting involved, and it's off of his energy and his play that's really projected the UMass offense. And also Patrick Lee. He's been on the team since day one. 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists, and he's really been contributing as well. And Ryan Wishow in goal. 130 saves, 2.51 goals against average, a .909 save percentage with a 2-2-1 record. This kid has a future with the Minutemen, and like I said earlier, I feel like if Carvel makes a decision on a goaltender, Wishow has a really strong shoe-in for that position, Tommy.
Wishow, the younger of the 2 goaltenders, and his numbers are slightly better.
Yes.
So, Liam, you may have a point. Now, just to update you on the upcoming weeks for the Minutemen, they have a game against UNH November 8th, and they start the Friendship 4 tournament, where they'll take on Vermont in the first game, and then they will play the winner of Quinnipiac and St. Lawrence. Fun fact, number 20 St. Lawrence is Coach Carvel's former team.
Yes,
so
it is. Yep.
Be nice to see them two in a grudge match. But thank you very much, Liam, and we'll enjoy having you cover after the Thanksgiving break.
Absolutely.
Don't touch that dial, though, because Phil Sanzo's coming back. You guys might be excited about it, I don't know. But we're going to talk about the men's soccer team and how their season came to an end. Stay tuned. And there's our favorite audience. As I promised you, we're in the giving mood for today, so we decided to give you a little Phil Sanzo before the break. Now, Phil's in here to talk about the men's soccer team, who took on VCU in the A-10 tournament. Now, as we talked about last week, the Minutemen went 4-2-2 in the A-10, which gave them the number 4 seed in the tournament. They took on number 5 VCU. Phil?
Yep.
It's a good game.
It was a good
Final
game.
score was 2-1 VCU, but tell us why that final score was just so devastating, besides the fact that it was a 1-goal game.
I mean, UMass had the lead basically to the last minute of the game. They had the 1-0 lead. Alex DeSantis got it early, and the defense showed what the defense was doing all year. I mean, the UMass defense has been probably one of the biggest backbones of this team all through the A-10s in the second half of non-conference. And it really showed. They were outshot by VCU 19-3. So, I mean, it really, really showed that the defense was holding through. You got George Pacero, who had a tremendous season in his senior year, basically play well all the way through. And, I mean, they gave up that last goal to tie it to Brandon Eden. And then it was tie going into the overtime. And it only took about 8 minutes for VCU to take the win. Heartbreaking. UMass was 4th into the conference. I mean, at a position I think they were projected 10th at the beginning of the season. So 4th is once again back-to-back years where the Minutemen really were able to defy the odds. So it's heartbreaking to lose in the first round, similar to like last year. They lost to Fordham in the first round last year. So to not be able to go any further, that's heartbreaking. They lose Becerra, and they're losing Josh Jess and Ty Gonsalves, 3 key members, 3 key starters for this team. So it hurts, it really does, but there's a lot of good to look forward to this team also.
So before you get into a lot of the good we'll talk about, just want to let everybody know UMass did, in fact, get scored on. It was 1-0. They were scored on with 25 seconds left in the game in the 90th minute. In college, there is no extra time. So once that 90th minute ended, they went straight into overtime, and then VCU scored in the 99th minute, effectively ending the Minutemen season. Tough way to go. Tough to see Gonsalves, Josh Jess, and George Becerra go. But as Phil talked about, we have a lot to look forward to. Right. Give us a little bit of what we should be looking forward to.
Well, I think offensively, who you got to look forward to is Alex DeSantis. He really emerged this year as pretty much the premier offense, the premier forward on this team. He scored the most goals, I believe, and he really carried the team throughout the entire season, similarly like we did against VCU. He's a kid. He's going to be a senior next year. He's going to be really good to watch. I think he's a quiet boy. He doesn't talk a lot, but he really can play around on the pitch. Ryan Saul, defender. That's a good chance that Ryan Saul takes the place of Josh Jess. Josh Jess is a defender, and so is Ryan Saul. And the players I said before that Ryan Saul was one of the best rookies this team had. He's a freshman, so they're going to have him for a lot of years to come. I think the biggest question mark is going to come in goal. George Becerra has been there for 4 years. He was a tremendous goalkeeper, UMass Player of the Week multiple times, A10 Player of the Week multiple times. I mean, this is a guy that's hard to replace. Like I said, this team was so good on defensively. A lot of it was because of George Becerra, and to see him go, it's gonna hurt the Minutemen a little bit. We're gonna have to see coming in next year who they put in goal. I guarantee you, it probably won't be as good as Becerra, but I mean, those are the growing pains they'll have to get through, just like they had to get through this year as well.
So Phil, you talk about Becerra leaving, Ty Gonsalves, obviously, who was their big setup man this year, led the team in goals and assists. It's very early; they haven't recruited yet. Give me a record for next year. What do you think?
A record.
Where do you think they're going to finish in the A10, and where do you think they're going to mark out their season? Just speculate for us. Give us something to look forward to. Remember, the math is 4-2-2, which is 8 games. So,
the record's hard. I don't have a crystal ball with the record.
You don't have a crystal ball anyway.
It's true, especially without the record. I will say with the standings, though, I don't know if they'll get back to fourth just because the goalkeeper is such an important position. And without a solid goalkeeper, I think similar to hockey, if you don't have a solid goaltender, it's going to hurt the team a lot. And I think with this men's soccer team not having a solid veteran goalkeeper is going to hurt them. So I don't think they'll have as good of a season, especially in conference like they did recently. So it will be interesting to see maybe 5th or 6th in the conference, but it really depends on that defense and that goalkeeper position, I think.
Well, there you have it, a solid season for the men's soccer team. Unfortunate the way it had to end, but we get to say goodbye to some seniors, congratulate them, and wish them the best of luck in the future. Thanks a lot, Phil. We'll see you back in a couple of segments. You guys can't go anywhere because after this, we're going to talk about the women's field hockey team, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Now, much like the men's soccer team, the women's field hockey team went into, unlike the A10 tournament, the NCAA tournament. They had a play-in game with Monmouth University, which the Minutewomen won 2-1, I believe. Now, after that, they decided they needed to take on number 2, Maryland. Now, obviously a tough call taking on a team like Maryland. For those of you that don't know much about field hockey, Maryland has been a powerhouse in the NCAA all season. The Minutewomen had the lead, much like the men's soccer team, 1-0 throughout most of the game until Maryland scored within the last 5 minutes. The Minutewomen went through 2 overtimes, and unlike hockey, which would have won continuous overtimes in the NCAA tournament, they go to shootouts. There, unfortunately, the Minutewomen fell 3-0, effectively losing 2-1 to Maryland, ending their season. Now, like we do with most sports when the season ends, we like to highlight some of the seniors that are leaving this year, and we have a couple big ones. First, I want to talk about Izzy Delario, who is the setup person on every penalty corner. The joke in the press box is that whenever there's a penalty corner, Izzy is setting it up. Now, the big thing with Izzy, 31 goals across her collegiate career here at UMass, but if you look at the assist number, she averages somewhere between 9 and 11 every year. And the points above 15, she's always been phenomenal. She's been with the team since freshman year and played consistently since freshman year. She will definitely be missed. Now, after that, I want to go to Nicole Miller, whose parents are at every game. They have the Miller Caravan. Nicole has been a good goal scorer for the team. As you can see, she came on junior and senior year. She got a lot more starting and playing time. And especially you can see her senior year, 29 points. Nicole is one of the leaders on this team and did a lot on the offensive end for the Minutewomen, so she will definitely be missed. Lastly, I want to talk about Hannah Farrell, who is big on the defensive end. Now, if you take a look at the graphic, not a lot in the points department, numbers-wise specifically. That is, Hannah Farrell. 8 and 7 points her junior and senior year. Again, somebody who came on very strong late. But as you can see, she played between 21 and 24 games throughout her entire career, which means she was a stalwart on that defense, part of the backbone, had good chemistry with Melanie Kirsch, and it tells me that she was also extremely important to this team. Now, what do we have to look forward to? Well, we have a team that's made it to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, a team that's won the play-in game to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row. What you're going to see from this team next year is a bunch of girls that are stacked, a bunch of girls that are ready to go, and a bunch of girls that want to advance past that first round to the NCAA tournament. Good news today, Emily Hazard, the redshirt junior goalkeeper, tweeted out that she will be staying at UMass for grad school, which means she will be playing another year in net for the Minutewomen. Always a solid there. We've talked about goaltending all show. Consistency is key, and especially consistency in goal. But two people I want to highlight. Melanie Kirsch, A10 Defender of the Year. Sarah Hawkshaw, A10 First Team, had 16 goals this year. Those two are returning. Those two are the backbone of this team. You put players like Anna Dykstra around them, Shauna Rankin-Byrne, Kalina Hawks. What you have is a team that is solid, a team that is built from the ground up, and a team that is ready to compete and ready to win. They will have a new coach by the time next year comes around, but what they do have is a solid core in place. If you ask me, this team is making it probably to the Elite Eight in the Final Four. Call me ballsy, call me whatever you want, but that's definitely what you're going to see. More people need to come to these games. More people need to tune in for this field hockey team. But congratulations to the seniors. Congratulations to the team for what they did this year. And we'll be right back to talk about some men's basketball, so stay tuned. A much anticipated UMass men's basketball season started last week when the Minutemen took on UMass Lowell and a couple nights ago Ole Miss. Now, why is this season so anticipated? Besides the fact that the Champion Center is now built, the Minutemen have their own facility. Derek Kellogg is back for another year coaching. UMass had the number 25 recruiting class in the nation, according to some metrics. And that class is highlighted by Dijon Giroux, who is from Louisiana, I believe, and Luan Pipkins. So, what did they do this weekend? We're here with Phil Sanza to find out. So, Phil, you have two games. First against ULaw, you win 90-76. Then Ole Miss, you lose 90-88. So, first thing I want you to tell me, recap. Besides the scores, what can we know from these games?
These games are a perfect example of what this team could possibly be early on in the early going. Very exciting. UMass Lowell, a team that has not been a Division I basketball team for very long. The victory was kind of predicted going in. UMass greatly outsized the Lowell people, the Lowell players. So it really, going into the game and throughout the game, it was clear to see that UMass was going to win that game. Ole Miss is where it got interesting. Ole Miss is an established Division I program, as we all know. In basketball, they're off to a 2-0 start, a good start for this team. Now, with that game, you saw the Minutemen hit like ebbs and flows. Like they would do really good. They would be up by double digits almost, and then they would get close to tie and get down. I mean, this team is going to fluctuate how it plays, mostly because of its youth. It has usually 2 or 3 freshmen on the court at a time.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Against the UMass Lowell game, you have to look at against UMass Lowell. You had Luan Pipkins had 8 steals. Led the country actually in first steals throughout the first games. He had 8. I mean, that's where you're going to see a lot from Luan Pipkins. In the second game, it was interesting to see Dijon Giroux against Ole Miss. He had 25 points and I believe 6 assists. We'll go into a little bit about him later. The biggest thing to take away from these last few games is that the Minutemen played tremendously well in both of them. The problem was against UMass. The problem was against Ole Miss. They couldn't close the game out, a sign of their youth and everything. So it'll be interesting to see going forward. If you look at the highlights from the Ole Miss game, you could see that there was a lot of good things happening from a lot of different players.
So just a couple of highlights I want to point out. In the first game, Rashawn Holloway, who was the freshman big man last year, came out really impressively in his first game against UMass Lowell, put up 21 points and led all scorers. A couple of little tidbits from the Ole Miss game. Dijon Giroux, the new freshman guard, came in, put up 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. Also to complement that, another thing to talk about, this UMass team, Phil talked about Luan Pipkins. This is a fast UMass team, an athletic team. They did win the fast break scoring breakdown. They won 17-7, scored 17 points to Ole Miss's 7. However, an issue, and I'm sure Phil will touch on this in a little bit, rebounding and playing the paint was another issue. UMass was outscored 38-20 in the paint, probably a reason that led to the loss to Ole Miss. Now, Phil, I give you a lot to digest there, but I want to look at players to watch. It's early in the season, only been 2 games. Who should we look forward to and why?
It's a lot of players to watch for one. When I was preparing for this segment, I was trying to limit it down to 3 because I could talk about the entire freshman class, the transfers. There's a lot of players to watch on this team. So I limited it down to 3, and I think, and we discussed 2 of them. Actually, we discussed all 3 of them. Luan Pipkins, he was academic non-qualifier last year, so he was with the team, could not play, though, or practice. Dejan Giroux, the freshman, the top-leading freshman, 64th ranked by ESPN coming into this season, led this class, essentially. And Rashawn Holloway, like we talked about, the freshman big man. I'll start with Pipkins. In these last 2 games, he started in both, and he played 30 minutes, roughly 30 minutes in both games. That's what you're going to see from him. He had played 30 minutes. He had 12 steals. He had, I think it was 18 points in the second game and 14 in the first. I mean, Luan Pipkins is probably one of the most athletic players on the team. Especially, he plays both sides of the ball very well. He wreaks havoc with defense, with offenses. He's going to steal the ball and bring it to the other end of the court a lot of times. I mean, he's one of these players that the Minutemen were excited about last year. Unfortunately, could not see in action. It's going to be really good to see him this year as one of the guards. Dejan Giroux. Now, what's interesting about Giroux is that you would think being 64th, being a point guard, 64th ranked in the country, that he'd be a high scorer, which he is. But what's almost as valuable about him is his assists. He's a very, very selfless player, and his teammates and his coaches have said that about him, is that for his age and being so young, he's one of the most selfless players they've ever met. Being a point guard requires a lot of leadership, and since he's been a point guard most of his career, you definitely see that. In the first game, he had only 4 points against UMass Lowell, but tallied 7 assists. So at a glance, you say, oh, he didn't really have that good of a game, but if you look at it, he helped his team score big points also, as much as, even though he did not score a lot himself. Second game, obviously the offense came alive, put up 25 and had 6 assists. So I think with Dejan Giroux, what you're going to have to look at is not only is he going to put up points, but he's going to help his teammates put up points. Really, really interesting to see that from an 18-year-old kid just coming straight out of high school. And the last one that we're going to know is Rashawn Holloway, like we mentioned. What I like so much about Holloway, he's a big dude, and we all know that. He's 6'11", 320. I mean, he could play defensive end for pretty much any college team right now and have some success. He's a really big dude. Have a lot of success with UMass.
Yeah.
Different segment. Rashawn Holloway put up 21 against UMass Lowell, best game of his career. You could see he was dominating in the paint because really he outsized everyone on that team. That was the case for much of Minutemen. That won't be the case throughout the entire season. There are other big men. Though he's one of the biggest, there are other big men, the A10, that the Minutemen are going to have contesting. But Rashawn Holloway, he's more athletic. He dropped about, I think it was like 30-plus pounds in the offseason from last year to this year, and that's really going to benefit him in the long run with his knees and with his body, keeping it going for the whole time. Really, there are only 2 main centers on his team, Rashawn Holloway and Malik Hines. Both are sophomores. So there's not a lot of Kyla Lanes almost on this team. There's not a lot of veteran centers. So I will look for Rashawn Holloway. He only played 17 minutes against UMass Lowell. Derek Kellogg said that may have been a mistake on his part, but he's one of these guys that once you get sitting down, I mean, it's hard to get him going again after a while. So I would definitely watch for him to play more than that. But he also took 14. He had 14 free throws against UMass Lowell, so he was getting a lot of fouls, and I think that was a big thing for him. We just have to see that going forward. He's going to take a lot of fouls, and it'll be interesting to see. So those 3 guys, amongst others, I think will be the best to watch going into this season.
UMass's rebounding and paint play was their weakness last year. Hopefully Holloway, Malik Hines can step up and make this team better. Now, before we go, just a quick update on the women's basketball team. Coach Tori Verdi's Coach Tori Verdi's first game as the Minutewomen's head coach. Wow, that was difficult. Minutewomen won 70-58. They lost best player Sierra Dillard. Really great win to start off the season against North Dakota State. We're going to give you all the coverage next week. Unfortunately, that little buzzer's ringing on my laptop, which means it's 7:30, and it is time for us to go. Have a great break, UMass. I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you 2 weeks from now on Tuesday. This was UMass Sports Weekly. I'm Tommy Kaludi, and we are signing off. Peace out.